It's an extraordinary pleasure to be with you this afternoon and personally thank each and every one of you for the extraordinary efforts that you have made to produce results that I will tell you somewhat later on that were far beyond anything that I had as we launched this project. Last year, we described the goals of the project. We talked about the fact that we had raised $8 million in pledges at that time to move forward. The last 12 months have been an extraordinary period of time. Everybody in the diocesan staff, as Tom said, almost every parish, and those of you who are not yet involved, we are moving relentlessly. This is a 100%, and I do not know the word no, but already we have brought sufficient money in-house that we have started our programs and begun our work together. What I want to do is to have several people describe what they have done so you can get the full totality of what is going on. And the first person I'm going to call on is Larissa Alter. And she comes from the South Coast. She is one of our interns in the first of what will be 8 mission hubs. She will capture to you the excitement. And it is people like Larissa that make me so happy and my wife so happy to be involved in this. This is a tangible output. It is not the raising of the money, but it is in fact the spending of the money for programs like this that is so exciting. Larissa?
Thank you. As was mentioned, I'm Larissa Alter, and I am serving as a Life Together Fellow on the South Coast. Growing up at St. Thomas Episcopal Church in Flagler Beach, Florida, I was one of those rare and crazy kids who actually liked going to church. Every Sunday, my 4 siblings would grumble and complain and roll their eyes because they wanted to sleep in, but I was always up and bright-eyed and ready to learn about Jesus. My thirst for biblical knowledge eventually led me, age 14, to an Episcopal summer camp in the Panhandle of Florida. It was there, in a little wooden chapel that sat on a lake, that I finally realized that God wanted to know me just as much as I wanted to know him. So it was then and there that I decided to dedicate my life to God, to always striving to come into closer communion with him, and to letting him guide me on life's path. I didn't realize it then, but that was quite the prayer to pray when you're 14. My journey with God has led me on a path that at times has been neither easy nor the one I would have chosen. At the Lord's prompting, I abandoned my initial dream of attending an Ivy League school and instead went to a small Christian college in southern Florida. Following undergrad, I suffered through an unfortunate year of unemployment. And that was a blow that was so devastating to me that I thought that God had abandoned me. So in the midst of my hurt, I decided to abandon God. I turned my back on his path and decided to follow one of my own. So I enrolled in law school. Boy, that was a mistake. Despite making good grades and having some great friends, I was spiritually exhausted. It was exhausting trying to walk on my own path and not God's. It wasn't until the end of my second semester that I finally got down on my knees and cried out to God and rededicated my life to him. And that rededication has eventually led me here. And to be honest, I was extremely hesitant to apply to Life Together. But during the application process, I just felt that small whisper from God in my soul. The one that always comes and says, "This is where I need you." This is where I want you to go. Of course, for me, that entire time I was thinking, Lord, you would call me a Floridian to New England and the cold. The one plus side I thought was I would get to miss hurricane season this year. However, despite all those uncertainties, I remembered my ultimate promise to God to follow where he guides me. And so I moved. In August, I drove up from Florida to Fall River, Massachusetts. God guided me to this struggling old mill town to be a part of Life Together South Coast, the first initiative of the South Coast Mission Hub. And since I first arrived, I knew it was the exact place where God wanted me to be. Even though I've only been in Fall River a few months, I can already see what a tremendous impact this mission hub can have on the South Coast. My fellow interns have already done amazing things through the nonprofits they're working for. Elizabeth is assisting in organizing a hunger network for food pantries and soup kitchens. Rachel has been designing a curriculum for parents so that they can better be involved in their children's schools. And Stephen has met more Fall River residents than any of us by going door to door, getting people registered to vote. I am currently serving as the intern for both of the Episcopal parishes of Fall River, St. Luke's, where I work with the youth, and Church of the Holy Spirit, where I work with their street ministry, Bayside Fellowship. As seen in the work of my fellow interns, big things are beginning in the South Coast communities. And big things are beginning in my churches as well. I see these beginnings when I'm with some of the St. Luke's youth. Jennifer, for example, usually spends youth group as a typical 14-year-old would, flirting with boys. And she hasn't particularly warmed up to me. Her teenage eye rolls say a lot. However, last Monday, Jennifer hesitantly approached me, took a deep breath, looked me in the eye and said, "Larissa, I just got suspended from school. Can we talk?" Having a consistent person who cares in the lives of these youth makes a huge impact. And that is part of what the Mission Hub is doing, putting people who care in the lives of the people that need it most. I also see these beginnings in Bayside Fellowship as my second role as a Life Together Fellow. Bayside, a ministry of Church of the Holy Spirit, provides a Sunday afternoon meal and worship service at a park in downtown Fall River. As Reverend Jeremy always shouts every Sunday, all are welcome. And welcomed is what everyone feels. I know I experienced it. When I stepped out of my car that first Sunday and stepped into that urban park, I immediately breathed in God. As a newcomer, my nervousness vanished, and God replaced it with a sense of peace, that true peace that I've only really felt a few times in my life. Who would have ever thought that a 14-year-old girl crying out to God in a chapel in Fall River would end up doing street ministry crying out to God at a chapel in Florida would end up doing street ministry in Fall River, Massachusetts. I had no idea what lay ahead of me when I dedicated my life to God that day. But God knew. God knew that the South Coast needed this mission hub. And God knew that this mission hub needed Elizabeth, Rachel, Stephen, and myself as fellows. He guided all of our paths here to do his work for the community and for us to be transformed in the process as well. I cannot wait to see what God has planned for the future of this mission hub. Thank you.